letter from James Dunleavy, apprentice thaumaturgist of the Mayapple Lodge, to his sire and mentor, Leopold of the Cairn. August 3rd, 1864. My dearest Leopold, I must confess I have had little luck with the task you have set before me. The war has changed the landscape so drastically, and our people are no less affected than the mortal populace. They have scattered, or gone into hiding, or been wiped out, and their secrets are gone along with them. For all the absence of warlock, kindred, and lycanthrope, however, there is no shortage of more mundane horrors. As I write this, I am sheltering in a cottage near Petersburg, abandoned, but miraculously intact. I am not far from the battlefield, and all around me I hear nothing but the sound of crows. Leopold, I have never seen anything like this in scale or in character. The earth has been completely reshaped by trenches and fortifications and the wrath of the cannon. I have stumbled across bodies broken in ways I would never have imagined, flung clear off the battlefield by the adamantine force of the artillery. When night falls and I am free to travel, I move swiftly and preoccupy myself with reciting my formulae, because if I let my mind drift and focus my senses too sharply or for too long on the world around me, I begin to see the souls of the poor and the broken dead. I hear their lamentations, feel their ghostly breath upon my neck. These fields will be haunted for generations to come. But I console myself with my purpose. I have one last hope for success. A coven of witches, I am told, still dwells near Jamestown. If I can find them, perhaps they will have some insight into this project of yours. Lord knows, if you can find a way to stabilize the veil between this world and the next, it will mean as much now to the people of Virginia and the Carolinas as to our dear Salem. I will write again when I know more. Yours with love, James.
Welcome to The Chimera, a role-playing adventure podcast. This week, we're playing through the season of Autumn in our game of the Deep Forest as we set the stage for Season 3. But before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank the illustrious David Hanna for performing our intro this week. You may know David from his role as Randall on the now concluded Kids on Bikes actual play podcast Bike Brigade, or as the co-host of the excellent My Little Pony podcast Macintosh and Maud, which I had the pleasure of guesting on a little while back. You can find David on Twitter at BigMacinPod, and you can find his podcasts on your podcast app of choice. Now, let's get started.
We're just going to jump into it, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Is there anything we super feel the need to recap?
Jeff's back.
Welcome back, Jeff.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
back.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Like we have over 100 years of local history at this point. I think that
Yeah, we've kind of passed the point where doing a regular recap is feasible, but
listen to the previous episodes.
For a variety of reasons, I just want to point out that we are at around the time of the beginning of the Civil War.
Why?
Oh, that's good to know.
That is somewhat relevant.
What would make you think about that, Ethan?
I have no idea.
How random and unexpected.
I know, right?
A brief recap of some note is that the Nesbits briefly had a mummy taking care of them, but he turned out to be no good. And it took a lot of people to get rid of him.
Yep.
And that was only partly effective. Or it was effective, but only for a while. Anyway.
the first card of Autumn.
All right, Jeff.
All right.
Your card is the 4 of clubs.
The 4 of clubs.
The first card of Autumn. And the 4 of clubs is your choices. A new monster is born. Who are their parents? What does this monster represent to the community? Or a small monster dies from an illness. Who cared for them? How does the community react?
Huh. Okay.
You should definitely feel empowered to interpret both born and die fairly expansively, right?
Yep, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Now, when we're talking about monsters, could we do the classic hunters from Worlds of Darkness? Does that count as a monster type or no?
We're using really monsters to just mean characters, either individuals or factions within the underground Salem community. So, for instance, Braden introduced a character who's ostensibly just a mortal a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So,
he was a hunter.
Or, I mean, maybe a hunter, although he didn't hunt anybody yet. So, but I just mean I
see.
I framed him as kind of a proto-hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Fell.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I took him as being more friendly than that, but maybe I misunderstood. Anyways, yeah, go nuts, Jeff.
Actually, now that we talk about it a little bit more, sorry, I'm adjusting my seat. My apologies for the noise, Vin. I'm going to say, since we were talking about Prometheus and we're at about the 1850s, it's a really good time to maybe have some lightning and thunder. And a human of the town of Salem is doing a good amount of experimenting with life and ether and biology and trying to push science a little bit further than he probably should. And in doing so creates a Promethean of the Frankenstein type. And his parents is basically just this one man who is given to understand the world in a way that is neither black nor white and is not science nor magic, but some kind of combination of the two things. And his son is not a mistake. It is certainly on purpose and is someone that he cares deeply about. The son rejects that in a way and sees the world in a place where it is those who hate him and those he hates back. And so he's the newbie to the community. Everybody welcome him.
So kind of a little bit of an opposite Frankenstein, right? In that the creator is like, hey, my son, and the Promethean is
this is actually cool, but the son very quickly realizes that he can't participate in the society that his dad can, and that he has to be hidden and he has to, try to pass, and that he has to, he can't just be himself out in the world, and he resents that.
For the sake of what we've been doing in the past, do you want to place him on the map?
Oh yeah, actually, I do.
Yeah, is there a particular place where these experiments are being conducted?
I would say probably
or where he's retreated to
near running water so that he can generate electricity from, I don't know, water mill or something like that.
There's that locust there.
It's true. That'd be kind of an interesting place for it.
Oh yeah, I like it. We'll put Frankenstein there.
Cool.
Let me draw him. All right. Let's see if I can remember how to draw. Well, I'll draw that afterwards.
The canonical lore for Prometheans, by the way, is bananas.
It is so bananas. I love it so much.
We don't necessarily need to unpack that right now, but it's boy. They might be the most one could say either burdened or blessed with just so much weird layers of backstory in order to justify their own existence.
Okay, so what's my next step? I need to
next week we check in on projects. So
one more turn.
One more turn. So nothing triggers there, and then you take an action.
Take an action. I think that we're going to start a project.
Okay.
Hang on. We've got sort of Hang on. I am actually going to agree on something instead of a project.
Okay.
The sort of more traditional werewolf pack, the more rooted in the straight up Wendigo side of things, says that the Foxglove's totem is anathema and they should release it.
The I feel like this could apply to anyone. I'm going to say the Sistren aren't touching that with a 10-foot pole.
The Foxgloves disagree.
You think?
The forest spirit notes that releasing a totem might be a terrible idea just in general.
The thaumaturgists agree. That is all.
The thaumaturgist will touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Here is a nice contempt token.
I think everybody, it's just all around contempt.
Y'all can, everyone can toss in a contempt token, mechanically speaking.
Yep.
If you so choose.
I'm not saying the witches have contempt. They're just like, I'm not getting involved in this.
You hear something, I don't hear something.
No.
Court system.
The good shepherds say that it's the establishment werewolf pack who are anathema.
Ooh.
So that
The good shepherds.
Jeff might not have been around for them.
Right. They are.
no, I remember who they are. I know
Okay.
they are.
Okay.
I'm throwing a contempt token down in response to that, good shepherds. Oops.
Whoa. That is a lot of contempt.
So much contempt.
Jeff just filled the Wendigo territory with red.
All right. That's my turn, right?
I believe so.
We all chimed in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right. Ethan's up next.
Ethan, your card is the Three of Clubs. Here's what the Three of Clubs says. The Three of Clubs means a human attempts to join the community as a monster, agree on something about the community's reaction, or several smaller monsters return from hunting with reports of humans nearby, add a taboo associated with their discovery.
Can you read the first part again?
A human attempts to join the community as a monster, agree on something about the community's reaction.
That's a capital agree on something.
Yes, as a capital
I
agree on
see.
something. So it triggers the same mechanism as the action.
I'm going to flex the rules a little. Bear with me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to flex the rules on the definition of a human. Without warning, a person is found to be living in one of the huts, the witch huts. Just without notification, without any kind of explanation. She's just there. And she just puts herself on the scene without asking for. So I guess this is the one where I have to get an agree on something.
This is, yes, agree on something about the community's reaction.
Yeah. So I just pick someone.
Yeah.
We all just do this now and okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Someone
we just
makes
go
a
around and
statement.
say how people respond, right?
Yeah.
Agree on something is as much of a misnomer as uncover something old.
Sure. And, for the sake of clarity, this person may or may not be a human, but I mean, humans is humans, mages are humans. It's
Right.
it's hard.
No,
But yeah, so someone is just found to be living in one of the originally abandoned witch huts.
You do have to make
okay,
a statement for the agree on something.
I have.
Yeah.
Well, but I guess so the agree on something is I have to make a statement about it.
Right. You just pick one of the.
So I'm going to say
factions.
the Sistren are beside themselves in the boldness about the boldness. So the Sistren are believe this is an intrusion of the highest order.
The traditional werewolf pack rolls their eyes collectively.
The good shepherds ask, do you need us to get rid of this person?
Ask of the cistern?
Of the community in general.
Okay.
The Promethean says, "Let me roll up my sleeves."
The Foxgloves say, all are welcome in our community. Let us greet this person rather than accusing or attacking them.
Mr. Chamberlain leaves a small gift outside the door of the hut. Project
Yeah,
tick
and
down. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna put some contempt just on my own action from the cistern. I don't know how to do that, but yeah,
You just draw a thing.
thing.
Yeah, for contempt tokens, most of us have been drawing the
No smoking.
red circle with a slash, no symbol.
Although Big Red X might be a better idea based on our current performance.
Fair.
Look, only one of us is an artist, okay?
Yeah, only one of us has a stylus, I guess.
The stylus wouldn't make it any better for me, Braden.
Yeah. I'm not sure that changes much for any of us.
So project tick down, which means that the outstanding project goes off.
How exactly is that worded? I wonder.
How does the original project worded?
Yeah, or at least how did we note it
was-
down?
The way that I noted it down was, after decades of squabbling and confusion and stalling, the Cisterns settled down to rebuild their coven, fully replacing the missing members they lost after the witch trials, expecting this to correct the malaise over the abandoned witch huts.
And it works. There are several younger members in the coven now. They've taken up all the official positions that they need to take up, and they're ready to move forward as a complete coven. I'm guessing Ethan wants to take an action.
I'd like to take an action at this point.
And what's an action, Ethan?
So the new resident of the witch hut, who identifies herself as Mother McCree, when she gets any kind of pushback, says, "What? Are they not here yet?" And she'd like to start a project. And the project would be to call in the rest of the new cistern of the Bitter Well.
Whoops.
And that will be just a one-turn project.
Makes sense.
MACHREE.
MACH. That is so far from what I would have assumed. Okay. Cool. And that completes your turn, right?
Yep.
Very good. So now it's my turn. And my card is the Queen of Clubs. The Queen of Clubs means a group of humans arrive, wounded and scared. They seek shelter and belonging. How are they greeted? Or a single human arrives looking to reclaim something lost during the occupation. How are they greeted? Oof. Let me just look at where we are in the timeline here. Well, it's when Danvers State Hospital opened. So, yeah,
Civil War's over.
Right, Civil War's over, starting to... It's the rise of the robber barons. We're not really haven't hit their height yet. Don't have the best sense of what's going on in Salem at this time, other than the fact that it's around when Danvers State Hospital opens. Well, maybe there's something we can do with that. So, all right. Here's what I'll say. A woman comes to Salem from somewhere else. She's looking for the roots of her family line. And she knows that they go back to Salem and to the time of the witch trials, in fact. And she's trying to learn more about where she came from and sort of uncover her past, find the sort of thread of her family. Maybe there's actually something specific that she's looking for. Like she's looking for something, some family heirloom that's been talked about as having been lost when one of her ancestors was killed during the witch trials. And how is she greeted by the community? She's invited to tea by Mr. Chamberlain. And after having tea with Mr. Chamberlain, makes an appearance in the monster community. We should probably at some point establish, well, we will if we don't, like what is the community place, right? Like when we're having these conversations.
I mean, the court.
Yeah, so makes an appearance at court or whatever. Wearing a sigil that looks a lot like the little pictogram things that Mr. Chamberlain draws on doors from time to time. And, again, the pictures that appeared in the book and on the huts, this whatever strange language it is that keeps coming up over and over again. She's wearing like an insignia on her shirt that seems to be one of those. And she declares that she is there to speak on behalf of Mr. Chamberlain as the prince in absentia. He has given to her the title Intendant of the Blood. So Mr. Chamberlain has an agent in town now. Nothing. Oh, project's trigger. So your project happens, Ethan.
So within the course of not even the 7 years, but within the course of a very short period of time, 5 other individuals appear and take up residence in the huts. All of them have viable claim to either lineage or apprenticeship lineage, however you want to view that, to the sisterin who left initially after the trials.
Okay.
Except for Mother McCree.
Okay. And I get an action. So, starting a project, covering something old. Well, let's start a project. No, I don't really like that either. Yeah. I'm a little flat on ideas here. Sorry.
When in doubt, blow it up.
Danvers State Hospital. Lots of lore there.
It's true. Something. Let's see. What are the parameters on? Can uncover something old make a new taboo?
Theoretically,
I don't see why not.
Okay. Then I'm going to say we'll uncover something old and say that after the construction of Danvers State Hospital, one of the Good Shepherds and later one of the Thaumaturgists, members of several different factions, definitely a Good Shepherd, definitely a Thaumaturgist, definitely one of the Werefolk, have reason to enter the grounds or are last seen near the grounds and then henceforth not seen again. And it's decided that there is something terrible lurking in or around the premises, and people start giving it a wide berth.
Do you want to mark that on the map somewhere?
Yeah, can someone point?
Thanks.
I mean, that's an actual place. I don't remember where that is.
Yep. Let me see.
Or is it on the map because it's Danvers? I know that Danvers and Salem were the same place, but
yeah, that's a good question. It maybe just off. I'll take a look.
Yeah, so let's see. Salem Village is where Danvers is now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a sense of where Danvers State Hospital would be on this map?
Okay, it's right by 95.
Yeah.
I think it's... Oh, it looks like it's just about in the upper left corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to draw it. See, this is why I've assiduously avoided having to draw anything up until now.
Oh, so it's up like in Andover.
Yeah, this map may not perfectly conform to modern
Yeah, and in the map I'm looking at, it has it where you have it because it's on a parallel with Wenham Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also kind of screwed up where Wenham Lake is, it turns out. I don't know. The whole map's it's a little bit loose.
Yeah.
Whatever. General spatial relationships are correct.
It's just surprisingly far out there.
Yeah.
In a real map, it is parallel in, like, as Kelly's drawn it on the map, it is exactly on the same north-south axis as where he's got it in relation to Wenham Lake.
Yeah. I mean, you should bear in mind that it is definitely true that in this area, like, Salem is the smallest of almost all the towns that surround it. Although it is one of the numerically largest in terms of how many people live in it. So, like, Danvers is specifically supposed to be significantly larger than Salem in terms of square mileage.
And modern Salem is not the same as old Salem in that Danvers starts almost at the tip of, like, where you see, like, the tip of the water coming out. That's where Danvers is, so that it's way more south. Yeah.
All right. That ends my turn. And so it's Braden now, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's your card, Braden. It is the Jack of Clubs. The Jack of Clubs means a leader in the community leaves after mediating a particularly contentious argument. Who leaves? What drove them away? Or one of the most troublesome members of your community is found dead. How is their body treated? Does anyone take responsibility?
Well then.
Wow. Both of those are spicy.
Mhm.
Yeah, things start to heat up in the fall.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the pumpkin spice.
Well, let's see.
Regionally appropriate.
if not temporarily appropriate.
I don't know if there's anybody particularly troublesome right now.
I can think of like 5 answers.
I can too.
Yeah.
But there's not like like a leading contender for that.
No, there's 5
Depends who
good
you
candidates.
ask. It really depends who you ask.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can definitely inject point of view into this question.
Definitely.
I'm actually gonna say. So do we think the what was it? The old man is still alive?
The old man was the eldest of the werewolf pack.
Yeah, and that was like way back in the day.
So not under perfectly normal circumstances, but there's all kinds of exceptions to perfectly normal circumstances. So
That's true.
if you want them to be alive, they're alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the old man is now the ancient man. Something in that snake torque he was gifted appeared to increase his lifespan. He was working on mediating this issue of the foxgloves totem, and it involving them, involving the thaumaturgists and their sort of relatively objective magical view. He's tried many times and failed to get to bring in the advice of both the old Sistren and the new Sistren, and it's in spite of any magical life extending items, it's clearly taken its toll on him. One day he has his breakfast of 2 conies, and with no further word walks toward Gallows Hill and into it, and is not seen in this realm again.
I like it.
And we've got no projects still. So it's your action.
My action. Ooh. All right. I'm gonna let's call this Uncover Something Old. With the American Civil War over and massive loss of life, there's this kind of national turn toward spiritualism. And one particular spiritualist center crops up in Salem called the Church of Starry Wisdom. It's just out on the neck. And among other mortal attendees, several of the Nesbits are seen, have joined this.
Okay.
That's my turn.
All right. Vin, yeah?
Yep.
Here's your card, sir. Your card is the 10 of clubs. A monster attempts an ancient ritual that ends in tragedy. Add something to the map to represent what was lost. Or a monster sacrifices something precious in an ancient ritual for power. Add something to the map to represent what was gained.
Ooh, that's interesting. I think that... So, the thaumaturgist, Leopold of the Rock, thinks that he's made some significant progress deciphering and reconciling these various symbols in their various places with each other. And he believes that he can use a ritual that he's discerned from the Nameless Book to dampen some of the unpredictable effects in the area and essentially strengthen the gauntlet in a good way while still allowing it to be permeable. And so he assembles a small team. It's not just thaumaturgists, it's himself and representatives probably of each of the groups because they all have their own specific strengths and weaknesses. And they attempt this ritual in the Umbra on that umbral bridge. And it goes badly. And the bridge shatters.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
That bridge is not there anymore. Lives are lost. Not all lives. I think Leopold crawls out on shore eventually, possibly decades later. And outside of the Umbra, it doesn't really look like anything, except that people start to notice several more mysterious black cats poking around. Pretend I drew several small black cats.
It's been a big help with the umbral rat problem, though.
I think, bizarrely enough, I think the Siren's going to put a contempt token on that.
That's fair.
Why not? That's fair in that there are literally no rules about when, why, or how you place or remove a contempt token. So,
Yeah.
Go nuts!
Contempt for you and a contempt for you.
Contempt for everybody.
Everybody gets a contempt token. All right. Projects? No projects.
Mm-hmm.
So, your action, Vin.
All right. I have...
Oh, Cousin Caroline puts down a contempt token at the increase in black cats.
It's like Jokers in Gotham, right?
Right.
She thought she'd cornered that market.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to start a project, which is that the Elder Werewolf Pack has decided that they're very uncomfortable with having an unrevealed danger haunting the hospital. So they're going to stalk it out and they're going to kill it. And that will be...
Do they call it Siskerda?
I don't know what that means.
It's what they do. It's like a great hunt.
Yes. Yep. And I think that's going to be a one-term project. And that's it for me.
It you, Kacey.
Okay.
And you get the 8 of clubs.
Okay.
8 of clubs means a new set of customs emerges within the community, sparking controversy. Who practices these customs? How are they treated? Or A single monster arrives looking to take a mate. How is this desire expressed in plumage or manner? Which monster do they fancy?
Plumage.
I think I'm going to go with the new set of customs, which is actually going to be that it's been about a century since Mr. Chamberlain kind of came down from his cave and gave the Constitution and demanded a blood tithe. And the community at large has decided that they're not going to provide that blood tithe anymore. It's been long enough. Mr. Chamberlain has not really done anything for the community. He stays separate, and they've decided as a group that they're no longer going to honor that sort of one-sided agreement.
Mm-hmm.
I think that works.
It definitely works.
Okay. And then
who practices the customs?
them?
That's the community.
Okay.
How are they treated? If you wanted to expand any more on the consequences, this would be the opportunity, but you don't have to.
I think I'm going to leave it as is and let other folks pick that up if they want to.
Sounds good. Project completes, Vin.
I think after probably a couple of years of careful stalking and definitely not talking to anyone else about the process, the werewolves return from Andover, and to most observers, they are empty-handed, but to anyone who is actively peering into the Umbra, they are carrying a large skull. Kind of hard to say what. Maybe like a giant toothless snake? Hard to say.
Okay, I'm gonna uncover something old, and I'm going to say that on Big Misery Island, another skull actually washes up, and this is a large but single plesiosaur skull, and it is bleached completely white, and on it have been meticulously chiseled pictograms matching the variety that had been found in several different places throughout the history of Salem. And that night, everyone that's a member of the supernatural community has the same experience, which is that they wake up from lying in their bed, whether they were lying in their bed before or not. And they open their eyes to find a black cat sitting on their chest and looking at them. And the black cat says, "Only 5 of the 9 remain. Beware the hand that mocks and the heart that feeds." And then everyone wakes up from what they then realize was a dream.
Only 5 of the 9 remain?
Yep.
Beware the hand that mocks and the heart that feeds. That was everybody. That was everybody in the community?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to add a contempt token for that.
Spooky.
That's it. I'm done.
All right. So Kacey is gone. Now it's Jeff's turn.
Yay! Welcome to the 20th century.
Oh my God, is it? No, it is. Let's ring it in. Let's ring it in strong.
Party like it's 1899.
Jeff, your card is the 5 of clubs.
5 of clubs, what are you?
A new monster arrives. Who? Where did they come from? Or a monster leaves. Who? Why? Where do they go?
That's so much like the last one.
Somewhere.
Okay. So let's see. Now, if we're talking about a monster, we're talking about like the whole group of monsters, right?
It's really...
It can be a single.
Yeah, it could be single. Yeah, your call.
All right. I am going to say Mr. Chamberlain leaves as a result of the supernatural creatures failing to fulfill their side of the deal. He goes to plot the kind of revenge that no one would expect. And he goes.
There's so many hilarious answers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only thinking of funny answers here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Mr. Chamberlain's responsible for the curse of the Bambino. Just say, all right, that's what it is.
Let's see. Did the Nesbits who went to go to the middle of the United States ever come back?
Did they?
Oh
come?
yeah, they burned out and fled.
Right.
They burned out and fled.
They had a bad time.
He goes to the same place they were going to. And I think that's that.
Cool.
Any projects? No projects?
Nope.
I'm going to start a project. I'm going to start a 1-turn project.
Mm-hmm.
The Promethean has failed to integrate with either the supernaturals or the humans in this time. And he decides he's going to burn it all down.
Okay. Maybe someone's looking ahead of the timeline there.
Yeah.
All right.
How many turns is that project going to take, Jeff?
1 turn.
Just the one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You said it was a 1-turn project. I forget.
Okay. So that's Ethan up next.
Mm-hmm.
7 of clubs to you, sir. 7 of clubs means humans arrive and destroy something that was adopted after the occupation. What is it? Does the community retaliate? Alarming weather patterns destroy something that was adopted after the occupation. What is it? How does the community interpret the loss? Now, we don't have a lot of adoptions.
As far as I know, we just have the initial adoption.
I think that's right.
And that was the
vision spot.
The vision spot, which now the bridge for it has been destroyed too. So my options are the humans destroyed it or a natural disaster destroyed it in some respect.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can interpret natural however you want, but
Oh, it's so sad.
I know.
Yeah, I actually think I'm going with that one. So, around this time, there's a lot of we'll get to the project, but there is going to be a big fire, and in the days leading up to the fire, there is a dramatic drought, which I just read about, and the vision spot, which is over Salem, what is that? Salem Sound, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The area around it dries up, and the water recedes quite a bit, and the access to it seems to have desiccated as well. Even though the bridge is gone anyway, and then the access to it has also seemed to have decayed, and it's not destroyed. I'm flexing a little, but it requires a lot more energy to access. It is supernaturally and naturally desiccated by both supernatural forces and natural forces weakening it.
And then Jeff's project completes.
The Promethean has spent a lot of time kind of not laying traps, but generating sort of this these sort of magical energy fields at key points along ley lines of Salem, such that when he powers them with his electrodynamism, the ley lines themselves ignite in sort of this white hot flame, and they pass through enough structures to basically start a great fire.
That's the Great Salem Fire of 1914, everybody.
Mm-hmm. He took advantage of the drought, but that had nothing to do with it.
Started by an angry guy that lived in his father's basement.
That's true.
There's more good cities that way. All right. And your actions, sir.
Oh, I also want to make it clear that, like, this is an untargeted sort of thing. Well, it's sort of targeted, right? Like, I don't know exactly what the extent of the actual Great Fire was, but this affects the werewolves' territory, the cistern, the normal humans. It affects everybody in the town, whether supernatural or human.
Indiscriminately rude.
Yes.
The what are we calling him? The forest elemental?
Sure.
Sure. I mean,
approaches the new cistern of the Bitter Well with a... I'm trying to think if this is a project or an agree on something. With a proposal to purge the taint that is still somewhat remaining, although somewhat receded, by it taking up residence in the lake.
That sounds like a project.
Okay.
so move the forest spirit to the lake.
Yes. And would like to take up residence in the lake. And I'm going to say that's it's not an insignificant project. I'm going to say it's a 3-turn project.
Which cistern is the new cistern, and which cistern are we calling the old cistern?
The Mother McCree cistern or the new cistern.
Okay.
Correct. And they are residing in what used to be the old cistern's huts.
And have they all become one group, or are they two separate groups?
2 separate groups.
Okay.
I have to imagine they're not exactly huts anymore.
They're still witch huts. I mean, they're not tech.
I mean,
No,
among
they're not.
many other things, it's possible they only exist in the Umbra. So, like, there's numerous possibilities at this point. They don't have to.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about integrating with the local architecture.
Sure. No, that's fair. That's a fair point.
By the lake, you mean Wenham Lake?
No. The lake where the huts are.
Okay.
What do I call it? What's
Sorry, that makes more sense, doesn't it? Where are those huts? Yeah. I don't think maybe it doesn't have a name.
It's the giraffe lake.
Yeah, it does,
Right.
doesn't it? Every time I look at it.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's an animal, and then I remember it's a lake.
Yep.
Listeners, the lake looks like a little giraffe thing. Or like an emu.
Llama, maybe?
Could be a llama.
Cool. So, like, I mean, it doesn't matter in any deep sense, but like it'll be on an island in a lake, or
Sure.
oh, no, it doesn't matter.
I'm now wondering if there is one is the only question, but yeah.
There is for our purposes.
Yeah, that's
For our purposes, yes.
Maybe part of it is they need to make one.
Yeah.
how many turns did you assign that?
3.
Okay. And it's me.
It is you.
My card is the 6 of clubs.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
The strongest among you dies. What caused the death? Or the weakest among you dies. Who's to blame for their death? Wow.
Someone's gonna die.
Yeah. It used to be a really easy answer to who the strongest
he's
one
gone
was.
now.
Yeah.
Maybe he knew it was coming.
Yeah, no. Mr. Chamberlain is so wily that he knows he's a character in a game and moved. It's like the Rick Sanchez of the World of Darkness.
Right.
That is a revenge that nobody expected.
I was supposed to butt.
And it was a direct revenge against the second most powerful guy.
Yeah. Screw you, guy.
Well, there aren't a lot of other named individuals either.
And he did leave a second.
He did leave a second.
Or there's a Promethean.
The
That's kind of a
Promethean,
big
yeah,
thing.
Prometheans maybe.
You could argue that the Siren is pretty powerful.
I was
Actually,
thinking the
the Siren is pretty.
Yeah.
I feel like those are probably our top contenders.
I think you're right.
Maybe Leopold, unless, I mean, he could have some secrets we don't know about. But
Nah, Leopold's not the second most powerful.
He's just a nerd.
Leopold's a nerd. Come on. Give me a break.
I suppose there's also Micah Foxglove.
True.
Yeah, or I mean, it's possible that it's just like some as yet unnamed current leader of one of the major factions, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That would be the other possibility.
Yeah. Someone whose death would have a large impact on them, even if they're not named.
Right. Well, that would be if it was the most powerful. There's also a possibility it's the least.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's not.
interesting at all.
Well, the obvious answers would all be just like one of the many anonymous semi-mortals who's attached to one of the factions,
Like,
right?
That's much more
dies.
interesting in
Yeah.
the original context than in our context.
I mean, actually, you could interpret it as the factional answer rather than the
Mhm.
individual.
That's true.
In which case, that's a much bigger. That would be much bigger. I think actually the factional answer is pretty interesting. So this is where I'm regretting not exactly keeping a running list of new groups and factions because that's hard to do. Well, Ethan, I don't want to step on your toes too badly here. Do you need there to be two branches of the Cistern of the Bitter Well?
I need there to be the one branch.
No, I know you need there to be the one, but that's pretty obvious.
No, that's fair. No.
Okay.
No,
yeah,
I do not.
I'm gonna interpret this to say that the elder Cistern of the Bitter Well, who've been completely supplanted, right? They don't even have those huts anymore. They don't really have anything to do. So I'm going to interpret them as being the weakest of the current factions that are on the table. So, a relatively new leader of the traditionalist werewolf pack or the traditionalist werefolk pack. Again, I want to return to using werefolk because this setting, there's lots of different were types and they intermingle. The new leader of the traditionalist is Patrick Razorfin.
Oh.
He is a wereshark. For some reason not known to anyone other than the two factions, he declares war on the Elder Cistern, and over a bloody series of nights, he and his people manage to kill all of them and destroy their homes. There are no survivors. Let's see. And what am I supposed to declare anything else about that?
Nope.
Who's to blame? Nope. Definitely we know who's to blame.
I'm gonna throw down a contempt token.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, that's fair.
On behalf of the new sister.
I would imagine that would happen. There might be a lot of contempt tokens getting thrown around.
Yep.
This is one of the more overt
Foxgloves are throwing some.
one of the more overt like faction on faction violence episodes we've had. And I'll note that it happened right after Mr. Chamberlain disappeared, so you know.
You could have gone to the court system and resolved your differences.
That's right.
Projects tick down, but nothing triggers yet. So action. Start a project. I need like a faction spinner or something. I've got decision.
You can also theoretically just do a community project that doesn't have a specific
Oh, that's true.
faction associated.
True.
There's also a few factions that haven't been touched of late. The Nesbits have been real quiet.
A community project is embarked upon with leaders of some of the various factions, probably not everybody, but like some grouping, I'm not going to declare what it is, decides that since Mr. Chamberlain has left, they need a new constitution. So, a new constitutional committee is formed. I'm going to call that a 4-turn action project. And up next would be Braden, but he's stepped away. So we're back up to Vin.
Yep.
Vin, your card is the 2 of clubs. Someone vows to reclaim what the humans have taken. Who are they? Start a project to reflect their efforts. Someone vows to never let the occupation be forgotten. Who are they? Start a project to reflect their efforts.
That's interesting. I think in the wake of the chaos and violence that's been happening recently, the community has decided that they need to keep the memory of what has gone before here present in the minds of all members, to avoid relapsing and getting murdered by humans. And as part of that, every member of the community will be branded. Just a small brand. And that is going to be, I think, a 2-turn project to, safely, humanely, and thoroughly make sure that everyone in the community is marked.
Okay. Projects tick down, but again, nothing triggers yet. Ethan's will be next turn. So your action, Vin.
I'm going to uncover something old, in the sense of adding something new, which is that it is the early 20th century, and there is a huge influx of refugees from Europe. Among them are, a few werefolk, a number of vampires, quite a lot of changelings.
Yeah, we're just about at World War One at this point. Oh no, we're after.
No, we're after World War One.
Yeah, we're actually. Yeah. I think we're in between right now.
We're in the roaring 20s.
Yep. And I think that's it for me.
Okay. So, Kacey, your card is the Ace of Clubs. The Ace of Clubs means your community becomes obsessed with a particular taboo from the occupation. Which one? Why? Choose one. They refuse to work until all signs of the taboo have been stripped away. Do not adjust project dice this week. Or they believe that one project already in existence will save them if it's perfect. Add 3 weeks to a project die.
Okay. Well, let me look at the map. So our taboos are...
Our taboos are up at the top of the sheet here. Gallows Hill. The Wild Hunt. The Locust that's a little ways down the creek from Gallows Hill. The Eerie Fog of Whispers and Strange Shadows on Wenham Lake. You can decide if that's resolved or not. Your call.
Right.
The Empty Witch Huts, I think we've sort of just have described as being...
Yeah, that's resolved. The Emerald Bridge is gone.
Yep. The new witch houses in Salem Woods.
Which are now abandoned because those witches are dead.
That's true. We just can't keep these houses full.
It's just miasma everywhere. God damn it. All right. I think I'm going to say I have not calculated the exact years, but it's been some time since the trial of the Black Hand that culminated in the Wild Hunt appearing and going in to drag the Black Hand out of his tomb, and the entirety of the hunt and the Black Hand all disappearing. And since that time, although, there have been various magical means of predicting when the Wild Hunt should arrive every 20 years or so, they haven't appeared. And the assumption has been more or less that maybe they're actually gone for good. Like maybe whatever happened destroyed them. But this time around, when that date comes due, they appear as if nothing had changed. They come through the scar in the umber around Gallows Hill, and they ride through the woods and can be seen in town. The difference being that the Black Hand is leading them.
Kacey, you're going to love this. It's been exactly 100 years.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh, nice.
That occurred in 1833 or around, and you're at 1933 and around.
Yep.
Perfect. So that causes some distress and panic in the community because although it's been a long time since, the Black Hand has been present, he's still sort of someone who's talked about in hushed whispers and associated with these disappearances and has become something of a sort of boogeyman, go to bed or the Black Hand will get you kind of thing. So there's some genuine panic among various factions in the community, or at least various members within the factions. And there's a big cry that something should be done. We need to protect ourselves. And I'm going to go with option. They believe one project already in existence will save them if it's perfect.
Mhm.
So, and the projects we have in...
We have a lot to choose from, actually.
So remind me again, what have we got going on? We've got
The forest spirit is moving to right by the huts of the new Sistren.
Mhm.
There's a constitutional committee working on a new constitution for the community,
Mhm.
and the whole community is being branded with a special mark to remind them of how bad things happen during the witch trials, basically.
Okay, so I think that folks are going to focus on the marking, and there's going to be a push to find some way to somehow magically empower these marks so that there's a community-wide alert should someone disappear or be taken or killed. So it's a means of essentially knowing that the people that you care about are safe, because if their mark is not announcing it, then they're safer. And so this might be some means to create kind of an alarm system for the wild hunt and the black hand should he start pilfering people again. Although of course there are people in the community that insist that it's been going on the whole time. You just didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that project is going to get kicked back as various wards and suggestions and arguments about how this is going to work and how we're going to use this as a means of protection fall into place.
Did it say 2 was the addition?
Is it
3?
I think it might
4.
be 3?
3.
It's an
4.
extra 3 weeks.
Or 3 weeks, sorry.
Or 3 steps.
3 steps. So that's basically that makes this a 4 because it was down to 1 and now it adds 3, so 4.
Okay. And then were there any other projects that finished?
Yeah, mine finishes here, I think.
1, 2, yeah, you're right.
So after some work and maybe even constructing an island, the forest spirit arrives at the lake, and upon its arrival, the 5 huts with the 6 witches and the forest spirit have a small ritual of welcoming, and in the process something happens that thrums across the area around the lake, and the taint that has been ruining that area just goes away.
Okay. Kacey, your action.
Okay. So I guess I'm fudging this, but this will be a uncover something old. All of the direct descendants of Micah Foxglove, some of which are still in Salem, but others of which have gone further afield. But it doesn't really matter if they're in Salem or not. It's just being a direct descendant. Have a dream of a man who is perpetually shifting back and forth between wolf and man. He's just transforming back and forth. And he looks exhausted and haggard. And all he says in the dream is, "Help me." And those descendants that are still in town and are familiar with the various, drawings and paintings and monuments would recognize him as Micah Foxglove.
Okay. And now it's Ethan.
Wait, isn't it Jeff?
Or sorry, Jeff. Yep.
Jeff.
Sorry, I'm incredibly bad at keeping this turn order in my mind. I don't really know why. I'm not usually this bad at retaining a pattern, but it's pretty embarrassing. 9 of clubs, sir. 9 of clubs. So the 9 of clubs means a clutch of tiny monsters is discovered near the community. Always here, but overlooked. Agree on something about them. Or someone digs and uncovers a very peculiar skeleton. What sort of creature might this have been? Are there others like it? Question mark.
Tiny is probably a term that is open to interpretation.
Very much so. Very much so.
I'm a leprechaun.
always here but overlooked.
Yep.
Okay, I think I want to go with tiny creatures because it just sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like we have so many factions at this point. I don't know that we need a set of tiny creatures. But I was thinking that that someone digs and discovers a very peculiar skeleton on Old Gallows Hill, and it is initially thought to be some kind of dinosaur bone that's found. That's a huge, very large bone, and it's of such a, it's such an exciting find that it brings a whole lot of attention from various universities, archaeological programs, and they start to sort of excavate and dig up Old Gallows Hill. The skeleton appears to be something of the Brontosaurus T-Rex variety, but anybody who's given to umbral sight would be able to see that there's a lot more to it than just dead bone. And are there others like it? I don't know. I feel like these academics are going to have to find out by searching in other places in Salem. And that's that.
Okay. Ethan's triggered. My project 1, 2, 3 has another turn to go.
And the branding project just got extended, so that 2 is no longer 2.
Right, yeah. So nothing triggers this turn, so it's your action.
Okay. I am going to say that the folks of the Foxgloves that had given a contempt token for the Wendigos denouncing their totem, some of them get rid of their contempt tokens at this point. The descendants of the Foxgloves have sort of gathered help, and they have, or at least allies, people who they believe are allies, and work on a project towards freeing the sort of Foxglove totem, or figuring out some way to release it from that bond. And I am going to say that's probably a 4-turn project, because at this point it's probably a very old and very powerful spirit. And since it's bound to the whole pack and not just a small group of them, those bonds probably run pretty deep. Also, they run the risk of starting an all-out civil war amongst the faction. So it's a very delicate process to do carefully.
Okay. 4 turns, yes?
Sure.
Ethan, yes?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I didn't guess wrong that time. Ethan, your card is the King of Spades, and I believe this coincidentally is also is also the last card of Autumn. Just FYI. So the King of Clubs. An old thing discovered on the map starts to attract monster outsiders on pilgrimages. Agree on something about the problem these pilgrims are causing.
That's it?
Yeah, there's no choices with kings.
There's no choice on that whatsoever. So this is pretty straightforward, actually, and is both synergistic with reality and the game. It's at this point where mages of all sorts and people who aren't mages but think they're witches begin to descend on Salem due to its history with the witch trials and whatnot. And the agree on something is the new Sistren proposed that this is fine. This is natural and should not be resisted in any way.
The siren, or, the person occupying the position of siren, it's been a long time. It's sort of hard to say who actually is in that space, but she's very down for this.
Yeah.
This is a buffet.
Right.
What was that? What was the spiritualist church called? The Church of Starry
Wisdom.
Starry Wisdom, I think. Yes. Church of Starry Wisdom is like, oh, y'all just heard?
The traditionalist werefolk sniffs each one as they arrive and nods.
It's a lot of sniffing.
A lot of sniffing.
A lot of butts.
If you've been to Salem on Halloween, it's a lot of sniffing. Trust me.
And these are just humans that are fascinated with the trials and are into like.
It is a combination. It is a combination of that and actual mages
and legit magi.
All right. The Nesbits tolerate this group, but there's a general sense of annoyance because up till now they've kind of been the only like, we're humans, but we're special and tied to the supernatural community group, and they don't love that, like, you know, these tweeny girls in all black and their friends are like hobnobbing with mages. And
I mean, it's 1945. It's not.
Yeah, what do you think a late 40s goth is? I'm thinking about this. I'm like,
Yeah, well, you know,
the spiritualist,
still all black,
Bellows,
different,
I guess.
No, actually,
like different cut of clothing, but I feel like you could still kind of go with the theme of, you know, darkness and ennui.
Yeah, no, it's just, definitely a thing. I mean,
so there's just sort of a sense of irritation that there's this other group that's kind of wannabe supernaturals walking among the actual supernaturals. Some of which don't even know it, and it's just all like, you know, whatever the 1940s slang for posers is.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is the turn that the Constitution Project completes, right?
Looks right.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So project completes. Oh, I liked it better when I thought you were going to extend this one, Kacey.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. I like what you did.
I did think about it. I was like, oh, that would be a good one to extend to.
No, I like what you did with your extension. I'm not complaining about it. I just was like, oh, that'll buy me some time to think about what
that won't be till next session. See you guys in a week.
Okay. The Constitution is completed. Completing doesn't mean just finished. It means ratified. It means the whole project is done. There's a new constitution, a new plan for the community. This new plan for the community involves having 3. So the new constitution calls for the community to be governed by a meeting of all of its members. Everybody who has a brand gets a say and a vote. That's held 3 times per year. And in between each meeting, someone is named as mayor, but they only get to hold it for a third of the year, so they can't do very much with it. So, okay. And Ethan, your action.
So, as August 6th, 1945 rolls around, news in the mundane world is talking about the end of the war because of the bombing in Hiroshima. Transmitted over the siren network, as it were, through the branches, is news about the bombings, and even the supernatural world is kind of riveted by this terrifying and horrific new technology. But as they're hearing this kind of broadcast, as it were, through the umbral net, through the siren, their broadcast, as it were, is interrupted by Mr. Chamberlain, who says, "You ain't seen nothing yet."
That's it this week for the Chimera. Our theme music is Hoof, Heart, and Hiss by Matt Weber. You can find a link to more of Matt's work in the show notes. Our intro this week was performed by David Hanna. You can find David on Twitter at Big Mac and Pod. You can find his podcasts, Bike Brigade and Macintosh and Mod, on your podcast app of choice. I'm on Macintosh and Mod Season 6, Episode 23, Where the Apple Lies, if you're curious. You can find us online at thechimera.space or on Twitter and Facebook at ChimeraPod, and you can support the show at patreon.com/ChimeraPod. We're going to be making some small but hopefully helpful changes to the Patreon in the near future, so watch out for those. I think that's everything for this week. Until next time, thanks for listening, and take care of yourselves out there.